U.S. Farm Report at Ag Industry Day is brought to you by the Mosaic Company, creating innovative advanced crop nutrition products and practices.
Well, Plant 2025 is already underway in some areas of the country, while in others, producers are still penciling out their acreage mix. Farm Journal's Michelle Rook joins us this weekend. Michelle, from what you uncovered on your recent travels to CHS Ag Industry Day in Grand Forks, North Dakota, everything from possible tariffs to even ongoing dryness are factoring into decisions right now in the Northwest Corn Belt.
Titan, it still looks like the biggest driver of acreage decisions in the north is profitability, with the corn, soybean, and corn wheat price ratios tipping in favor of corn. Spring wheat could also lose acres due to production issues last season. And in the end, Mother Nature could trump it all. Farmers in the Northwest Corn Belt have many, but not all of their planting plans made for 2025. In North Dakota, there will be some acreage shifts based on input and crop prices.
Over the winter, there's been definitely more talk of corn and maybe a little less wheat. Probably be the biggest mix of or biggest change in our mix for coming year.
At the CHS Ag Industry Day in Grand Forks, Randy Martinson said the corn-soybean price ratio favors corn. So does the spring base price for insurance, with soybeans well under 2024.
They're down about $1 from last year, and corn is up 4 cents from last year. So that in itself speaks volumes for kind of the direction that most are leaning towards for planting this year because of more corn acres.
But he says yield is also a big consideration, as corn outperformed soybeans last year.
Corn was a really good producer last year. The crop was able to shut down during the dry period of the year, and then come off at the end of the spring or the end of the growing season, and actually yield very well for a lot of producers.
Farmers are also planting less beans with trade uncertainty, but the acreage can't fall too far with 2 new crush plants online in North Dakota. And there's talk of more sunflowers. So wheat may be the loser.
We had a lot of bad issues with spring wheat in our area last year too, for quality, between vomitoxin and low falling numbers, and so it's got some people not very excited about planting wheat right now, especially with the price where wheat is.
Tariff talk is also leading to caution on specialty crops that saw prices plunge during the trade war in 2018.
Right now I would expect that edible beans and the dry peas and lentils might see a little bit lower acres because of the tariff talk.
In South Dakota, producers are indicating similar acreage shifts, according to farmer and market analyst Dwayne Bussey.
I think it's going to be more corn acres this year, probably at the expense of soybeans, but maybe also at the expense of prevent plant.
Again, he says it's purely a dollars and cents decision.
Corn yields have really improved in South Dakota, where the soybean yields are kind of dragging for the last 10, 15 years, I'd say. So it's profitability. And in Minnesota, farmer Bob Worth agrees there will be more corn and more corn on corn this year in his state.
Corn, at 4 1/4, you can break even if you do not have a lot of machinery payments or a lot of debt to service. Soybeans, you have to be in 11.50 to make that even work, and we're nowhere near that.
Factors that could limit big corn plantings in the north include the availability and price of fertilizer, especially if Canadian tariffs go into effect. Luckily, Josh Paula of Mosaic says most of their spring fill is done.
Most of that fertilizer for spring season is in place on the potash side. There are still some tons that will move across the border in prep for certainly the northern plains, which won't go nearly as soon as the southern areas of the United States. If these tariffs remain in place, you could see an impact on those tons that have yet to still move across the border. I think it's a fairly small percentage overall.
And what about seed supply? Will it support a big surge in corn acres?
There's varieties that are short, but all in all, it looks like we're going to have the corn seed for what we've got booked and the potential of new acres. I think we're going to be okay for having enough corn seed.
You'll have seed, but it won't be the seed that you really want. It'll be like the lower down on the yield and all this. So it's going to hurt that.
And another headwind is for a third straight year the region is seeing an open winter, which is heightened concern about drought.
I wish there was snow on the ground. We've had a black winter the last couple. Last spring was very dusty with all the wind. Last fall got to be kind of dry, and so it would be good to have a little bit of a recharge.
The lack of moisture in the northern plains is still very much there. Even though we have systems going over the top, they're too fast. We still have a frost line. And below that, there's lack of subsurface soil moisture.
Long-term forecasts show the western Corn Belt could get moisture this spring, then turn back dry. As a result, farmers like Jason Nelson are keeping their powder dry to make last-minute changes.
If it's dry up here, and we'll probably maybe switch to something that uses a little less water, a little less nutrients, and let's try to maintain some flexibility there so we can do that as well.
So like every year, Mother Nature will have the final say. I'm Michelle Rourke for U.S. Farm Report.
Thanks, Michelle. Well, Canada is stopping some imports when it comes to U.S. pork. We tell you what pork processing companies are being impacted. That's in Ag Around the World next.